Hello and welcome to the Mainly Eminem podcast in association with ePro. Joining me as ever, we have Blake and Ross, and for the first time since starting this podcast, we have the incredible news that Eminem will release an album this year and perhaps very, very soon. So what do we know so far? Just last week there on the 19th of March, Dr. Dre was getting his Hollywood Walk of Fame and he was accompanied by Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent and Eminem. Later on that evening, the group minus Eminem appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live, where Dre announced that Eminem has been working on an album, it's almost complete, and it will be released this year. So it's probably the first official announcement we've had since Revival in 2017. As many of you would know, the previous two albums have all been surprise drops. So this is the first time that we've had official announcement, and from Dr. Dre himself. He did say that he is featured on the album as well, and that he was in the process of mixing some of his tracks. So that was on the 19th, and he did say on Jimmy Kimmel that he was listening to the full album the day after. And as you know, on Eminem's Instagram, he made a post with a picture of himself with Dre, Royce da 5'9", Mr. Porter, Alchemist and Easy Mill, where he put the caption, "Nothing to see here, plenty to hear." So that is what we know so far. Guys, first of all, surprised that we get an announcement this time and it's not a sort of surprise announcement?
I mean, I think, yeah, for a start, I was quite surprised. I was more surprised that it came from Dre on the Jimmy Kimmel show. That was like the confirmation. Obviously, back in, I want to say like February, he did an interview, didn't he? A brief radio interview where he said he's working on a little something. And
yeah,
I think we all kind of got our hopes up there that, maybe it's going to drop like a surprise drop in February, and obviously nothing happened. But I think Paul even said before that it's not always going to be in this format. It's not always going to be surprise releases, which I think is good. Don't get me wrong. I loved the surprise drop with Kamikaze. That like rocked the whole world and the industry. I've really enjoyed Music to Be Murdered by Side A and Side B, but I do want to see the rollout now. You know, like, do you remember when Revival was coming out and they did the advert for like pills? It was like Revival pills or whatever it was. Just that sort of marketing. I would like to see that sort of stuff again.
Yeah, so just briefly what you touched there with Paul, if anyone has the Eminem Not Afraid book that came out in 2019, Paul was talking, about Kamikaze that came out just the year previous, and he went on the subject of surprise drops. So he did say that doesn't mean every record that he does from here on out is going to be delivered that way, but if we do a more traditional style album, the rollout, the window between the announcement of the project is made and when it comes out must be much shorter, and it just has to be basically these days. He says the window is much shorter because of the way music is distributed and consumed. Blake, you have been pretty spot on with your prediction, because all the shows we did in 2023, me and Ross were sort of thinking, there's a good chance potentially be an album this year, but the full calendar year, you were saying next year, guys, next year, and well, you've been proved correct.
Because I'm the motherfucking goat. Yeah. No, to be fair, the way I was looking at it is like, when you actually, even though we don't know the full ins and outs, when like you actually looked at his calendar that he had last year, obviously everything with, in terms of his daughters getting married and engaged and, events here and there, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have made sense at the time with everyone that was releasing as well. So that's why I was like, nothing will happen till this year. So I'm just glad that I was right.
When do you guys think, because I put this question on Twitter, in terms of quarter, so, we're obviously heading into quarter two as of the 1st of April. Do you think that it's going to drop in the second quarter, or maybe the third or the fourth?
I'd like to think that maybe second or third week of May, just because obviously I know he does like releasing in the month of May, but if it's not May, I'd probably say maybe August at the latest, just because obviously you don't want to leave it towards the very end of the year, just because obviously that's when a lot of artists tend to, release their other stuff, and, they try and line their albums up, because obviously you've got the Christmas, charts coming up, and you want to get the number ones around that time of year towards the later end of the year.
Yeah.
So I'd like to say maybe second or third week of May at the absolute latest, July, August time around the year, but I don't know. I just hope it's soon.
Yeah, Ross, what about yourself? When do you see this album dropping?
I can't remember when exactly it is that it's happening, but I know Beyonce's got an album coming out soon. I don't know if
the 29th of March.
Oh, okay, so that's why I think we could probably write off April. April won't be dropping. I think I'd like to say May as well, but I think because he likes obviously to let his album sit for a while and it will take over the headlines. I think he'd probably have to drop it first week of May, so he has the full month of sales before he can say it sold this amount this month. So I think I originally said like June 7th because that would be the first Friday in June, and then you'd have 4 solid weeks after that to get to the 28th, which would be the last Friday. So I'm thinking around then, middle of the year. But yeah, who knows?
Yeah, so we asked the fans on Twitter, what is more likely to happen and sort of prediction wise. So 34% of the votes went to quarter 2. Which is obviously April the 1st to the 30th of June. So I've done a little bit of digging to see if there was previous Eminem releases in that sort of quarter 2. And yeah, the Marshall Mathers LP, that came out in May of 2000. The Real Slim Shady, which was a single from that, the lead single, that came out the month before in April of 2000. And then in 2002, the Eminem Show came out in May of that year. It was the same for the lead single for that, which was Without Me. That dropped in May, just a couple of weeks before it dropped. And then you've got Relapse, which dropped in the month of May also in 2009. And that was accompanied by the lead single, which was We Made You, and that to April of 2009. So that is worth noting. If you go maybe a month after that, you go towards June 2010, Recovery came out with Not Afraid and Love the Way You Lie coming out just a few weeks before. I think possibly Not Afraid was the first lead single to come out, and I think from memory that was around about April, May time. And then even further looking into Eminem's discography with Royce da 5'9", Hell the Sequel, that was also released in June of 2011. So there seems to be a good bit of previous from Eminem with those months that are mentioned. So we're all hoping that is a possibility that the album could drop and a single around about that time as well. Guys, what do you say in terms of the lead single from the album? Do you think that he'll do what he's done with his last 2 albums, which will be just release it when the album comes out, or do you think he'll go down the Marshall Mathers LP2 revival era where he dropped the single a good 3-4 weeks before, accompanied with a music video?
I think was it Walk on Water dropped before Revival with Beyonce, didn't it? So I'd probably reckon he's going to do something like that again. I think everyone that's going to throw a fit and say they don't want pop artists on it, you can just accept the fact he's going to have a pop artist on it, which is good because it's good for sales. So I think we're probably going to get maybe a song like either Walk on Water or The Monster, for example, because all of them are very commercially successful. So I think we'll probably get that. I'd like to say a month at least before the album, but to be honest, it's so hard to tell these days.
Yeah, so we put the vote to the fans, and 63% said that they think that the single and the album will drop together. But the more the days go on, that sort of is looking maybe a little bit unlikely. So in terms of the features from the album, there's going to be a stack load of features on this album. Blake, if you were to pick, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 artists that you would like to appear on this album, who would they be?
I'd quite like to finally, properly hear this collab between LL Cool J and Eminem that everyone's been going on about. I'm not the one that's been leaked either. The other one, which everyone was talking about. I'd like to think maybe 50 Cent would be on it, just because obviously he's on Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg's album, so it'd be quite good to hear Eminem and 50 Cent on a song again. To be fair, it's a hard one because obviously Eminem will only work with someone if he likes what they do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be angry at another Ed Sheeran one, just because I don't think they've done a bad song. I just think people get bored of hearing pop features, like Ross said, but at the end of the day, you're going to have that just because the combinations work. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'd like to see new artists, maybe some up and coming artists. But in terms of who I'd actually like to be on there, I wouldn't really want more than maybe 5 features on the album, like including multiple features on one song. Unless it's like a song like I Will and Ya Ya from Music to Be Murdered By. I quite enjoyed the way those were done.
Yeah, so I dare say we can say that Dr. Dre, who confirmed himself that he was on the album, so we can definitely rule that as an official one. Ross, what about yourself? If you were any new up and coming artists that you would like him to collaborate with, or is there some from maybe the last 5-10 years that he hasn't yet and he maybe should by now?
I'd like to finally hear J. Cole and Eminem come together.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense that it hasn't. I know they've made music previously when I think J. Cole was touring with him around Australia, was it?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of people would quite like to hear that again. Well, finally hear that, sorry. I mean, as far as like new up and coming artists, because hip hop is so different now, there's not really anybody I can think of off the top of my head that I would like. I'd like Denzel Curry, but he's not up and coming. But Denzel Curry's a favourite of mine, so that's why I'd like Denzel Curry and Eminem to do a song. But I'd say definitely J. Cole. I think we know 50 Cent or Dr. Dre. One of the two is going to be on it. I think, yeah, it's just maybe another Big Sean feature. That'd be good. I think the last one they did was Friday Night Cypher, which Eminem had like 2 minutes of the song. And he had like 8 artists on there, something ridiculous. But yeah, it's quite hard to say. There's not many. I think we can safely say we're not getting that Coil Ray feature.
That's in the toilet.
Yeah, that's in the toilet. Yeah, and maybe one with Melly Mel as well. But
I was looking at the Interscope roster because previous years, you've got Kendrick Lamar, who's on Interscope, and he was on, Marshall Mathers LP2, Ambassadors. Are signed to them. They were also on it. Going back to some of the compilation albums of Kings Never Die featuring Gwen Stefani, she's also signed to Interscope. So I'm going to go through a couple of artists from the Interscope roster, and I want you to say if you think a collaboration between this artist and Eminem would go down well. So we'll start off with DaBaby, who's on Interscope. What do you reckon about him?
Absolutely, that would slap, because a good example I would give for DaBaby is recently he's done a song with Busta Rhymes on Busta Rhymes' latest album.
Yes.
And that song for me is the song of the album. It is unreal. So that would be a good collab.
Yeah, there's another huge artist that's on this record label as well, Billie Eilish.
I mean, he scares her, so I'm not sure about that one. But that would be cool, because like I remember when she did the Bond song a while ago, her sort of soft, I would say creepy as well, aesthetic that she brings to a song, kind of reminds me a little bit of a very hushed Skylar Grey. So
yeah, I was going to say like Black Magic would also probably fit in well with sort of Billie Eilish. And let's see who else we have. We've got Playboi Carti, who's also signed to Interscope.
Fuck that. No, sorry, personally, no, just for me. Like I've tried really hard with Playboi Carti, but I don't get the hype. He just makes noises, in my opinion, and I've never personally met a Playboi Carti fan. I'm sure they're out there, and it's no disrespect to Playboi Carti, get your money, etc.
Yeah.
But it's just not the sound that I think would go with Eminem at all.
I agree with that. And then, of course, we've got Kendrick Lamar, who's also signed to Interscope. You would like to think, it's almost been, it's been over 10 years since they last collaborated. So, hopefully that could come about. And then finally, Lana Del Rey. A lot of people do seem to like her. She would probably fit in well with, a good chorus on an up and coming album.
I wouldn't be mad at it. It'd be interesting to see how it gets done.
There was another one that springs to mind from maybe a year or two ago. It was Cole Bennett, who sort of teased it a little bit. There was slight rumours of a Post Malone and Eminem feature.
Yeah.
Do you guys, could you see that happening for this album? If he wants a big, lead single to sort of hit the charts, it would sort of make sense to have Post Malone on it, I suppose.
I'd love to see it.
I'd love to see it, but I think now, maybe not. Like back then, it would have really done well, but seems like Post Malone's starting to step into other like ventures which he's interested in. So I don't know whether or not he'd give his full energy and attention to a project right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously he's now stepping into country music, which fair play. You know what I mean? Like it's something completely different, but I think back then he would have given his 110% of himself into the song, but I'm not sure whether he would now.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, he's gone. Yeah, there's a lot of people going down this country route. I don't know what to think about it. Like, country music's obviously been massive, like in the States for, since time began, but it is slowly, getting sort of taken over in Europe. I think Beyonce's album that's coming out shortly is sort of based on sort of country music as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that sort of unfolds. In terms of producers from the album, guys, if there was a few producers you would like to see included in this new album, you would imagine, of course, Dr. Dre is going to be all over that, as well as Mr. Porter. Anyone else that you could sort of think of?
Metro. I would love to hear Metro Boomin produce an Eminem song. I don't know what it would sound like, but he is probably one of my favourite producers in the last 2 years. I think, in the last however long, all the collab albums he's put out, all of them do very well. He's got a lot of clout behind him. I think I'd like, and Alchemist again as well. I mean, he was pictured in that photo on Instagram, so you'd like to think that there's going to be something there. And I'd like them to bring back Illa, the producer, who obviously did some of the stuff on Kamikaze. So that'd be quite cool. And he also I think he also produced Kill Shot as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I believe he did. Yeah,
bring that back.
That would be interesting. There was also, in that picture that you mentioned there, Ross, Easy Mill was also in that picture. Can you see him being featured on this album as well?
Yeah, I think so. I'd like to see all of the new Young Shady roster on there. Grip, Boogie. I'd like to see Easy Mill on there as well. I'd like to think he's going to put them on, even if it's just a song with all of them, Easy, Boogie, and Grip all on at the same time. I wouldn't even be against it. They all bring their own unique sort of aesthetic to a track. Grip, for me, had one of the most replayed albums recently on my Spotify Wrapped thing. Like, absolutely loved his latest album. And Boogie's got a very, very unique sort of flow to him as well. So yeah, put them all on. I'd be really happy to hear that.
What do we expect to see, for this album coming out? Do you expect your TV appearances? Do we expect tours to happen? Ciphers, a Sway interview again? What do we think? Do you think they're going to go all out with this era like they did with MMLP2 Revival? How do you see it going?
I personally would love another 4-part Sway interview, just because I remember at that time, obviously I know the MGK beef helped draw a lot of attention to those interviews, but I think it was actually, for those 4 weeks, it was a very exciting part, waiting for them episodes to drop, and or if you waited all the way through and you could watch them back to back, that it was brilliant because it gave such an insight, and it was actually a really fun watch. And it's not like the episodes were short either. I think was some of them like 20 minutes to 40 minutes long.
I think they were, yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'd love another set of those, obviously, because then you can get an insight of what he's been up to and stuff like that. I think in terms of touring, I can't see it being I think he'd do his typical shows in like Dubai and Saudi Arabia, stuff like that, just because obviously the attraction that would bring. But in all honesty, I could see him maximum 2 to 4 shows in the UK, maybe 8 to 10 shows in the US, and that'd probably be it. I can't big tour out of it at all, but I don't know. I'm hoping maybe they take a completely different route, and especially with his connections with Detroit Lions and how he's been following them very recently. I'd love to see maybe something involved with that. Like maybe a big reveal before a game or something.
Well, no matter what happens, anyway, it's going to be a very interesting era. Watch the space, and if you follow the show, we will probably be a lot more active in the next couple of weeks and months ahead as well. So yeah, stay tuned for all that. In terms of other news, Ross, I don't know if you've seen Lazarus, our man Lazarus, done a wee dish towards Mr. Benzino. How did you see that go down?
I think I actually saw it because you retweeted it, or Blake retweeted it with some fire emojis. So I was like, oh, what's this? And obviously, being at work, you can't hear everything, you can just see it. And I could see that it was a close up and his mouth was going nuts. So I was like, right, I'm going to have to go and listen to this. Bodied him. I mean, it's kind of a shame that he had to say anything to Benzino, but I get why he did it, because he went past the point of dissing just Eminem. He was disrespectful to Detroit as a city. I mean, going around there and throwing food on the floor like a child is just something else. So I'm glad he said something, and it just shows again that impact that Eminem has. However many artists can you think of that have had disputes in the last however many years that have immediately had other artists rush to their defense? Not that he needs it, and I'm sure Lazarus would probably tell us himself that Eminem probably doesn't need defending. But again, it's just that Detroit loyalty, which I don't think you really see out of any other city, to be quite honest.
When I retweeted it, I put Detroit versus everybody. You know what I mean? Like, which, from the song as well. And I've never known a city of rappers, not even like New York rappers or anything like that, where there's such a tight-knit community.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, Lazarus didn't have to do it. I mean, to be fair, my favourite line where he was there, like, the doctor's now doing this, and he said, you've got no trachea, like, as in no neck sort of thing. So I thought that was brilliant. But,
yeah.
Like, the fact that Trick got involved as well, and other Detroit rappers, started sending for, Benzino. It's like, you've got to respect it. It's more than, just a city. It's like, it's such a tight-knit community. And the fact that they'll stand up for each other is a testament to itself.
It's just quite pathetic though, like, flying economy, halfway across the country to go to, Mom Spaghetti. I mean, to be fair, he did give Eminem money, didn't he? So, he did spend money on buying the stuff.
Moron.
But the full thing, it is desperate. He's absolutely gagging for attention. I mean, it is quite sad that the guy is, in his 60s now. And, it's just like, mate, just, let it go for fuck's sake, you know what I mean? But, it was good to see a lot of the the Detroit rappers, sort of backing up and saying stuff. I think, if people knew that he was going to come, then he would have probably been put on, the first flight home. But yeah, hopefully that's it now, and we don't hear from him again, because he is a strange guy. But yeah, you never know. I suppose Eminem might mention him on the album. Like, I don't really want him to, in all honesty. He got his little bit off his chest in Doomsday 2, but I would rather he doesn't say anything about him again, because the guy's just he's just a weirdo, basically, and he would just keep on doing stuff like this again for another few months if anything was to come of it.
I did like that, just touching on what you just said regarding Doomsday, I did like that, obviously he said there's no black artists out there that are saying, we listen to Eminem, and then in the music video, all of his ad-libs were done by Jid, Denzel Curry, Sway Lee, Big Sean. They all did some of the ad-libs, which again I think was a little middle finger to Benzino, being like, really? Because these guys have publicly and outright said that I've kind of inspired them before. I think Jid was seen at a festival once wearing the Slim Shady t-shirt where he looks like he's holding a gun to a camera. So I just thought that was quite funny, not a nice little touch.
Yeah, what did we make of the video? Because it did take a while to come out, to be fair. Maybe about a month or so. But it was. What did you make of it?
I enjoyed it. I always like Cole Bennett's videos. I like that M stuck with the aesthetic with the black suit with the yellow tie. I'm glad that he did that. Yeah. Obviously, there was a photo that leaked that suggested he was going to do that anyway. And him coming out of the curtain, because I think there was another. I think it's on My Band. He comes out the curtain in a very similar frame in one of the music videos. And he's wearing his cap at an angle, and he's got his earrings in and stuff like that. So I don't know if that was an intentional little throwback, but yeah, I really liked it. But I always enjoy everything Cole Bennett does. So
it was quite clever the way, because the original Doomsday, if I'm right in saying, they had Juice WRLD and Cordae walking down the corridor, and then obviously Doomsday 2, it's a sort of reverse of it, which was I thought it was really well done. But yeah, Cole Bennett's videos in recent times have been very good, and we wouldn't be surprised if Eminem has a single on this new album where Cole Bennett might potentially be directing it. Right, guys, so before we go, I just want to mention the new beef that has started. Metro Boomin and Future's album came out, and Kendrick had a few things to say about Drake, and J. Cole, to be fair, as well. What do you make of that? Like, are you surprised that he went a little for J. Cole? We could obviously understand Drake with that's been brewing for a good few years now, but what did you think?
Personally, I think Cole just got caught in the crossfire. I think Cole's going to look at it as friendly competition. I know that Kendrick's featured on one of the Dreamville albums before as an sort of unannounced feature. So I don't know. I thought that they'd be friendly, but yeah. Did you? I don't suppose you guys also caught the. I think anyway. Don't quote me, but I think the slight reference to Eminem in that track where he says,
"Diss Melly Mel if I had to."
I crash out like fuck rap, diss Melly Mel if I had to, because obviously the idea of saying fuck Melly Mel was considered a diss to hip hop itself, but yeah, I just thought that was a nice little touch. But yeah, I think, like I said, Cole got caught in the crossfire. I don't think Cole's going to respond. I think Drake won't either. I don't think he has it in him. I know everyone loves Drake. Yeah, he's in the nicest way possible. But yeah, I just don't. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't see Drake as the battle type. He is the kind of guy that would rather just post a sneak diss like he always does, and just let that be it. But Cole,
I think during the Meek Mill, that era, you know, he did do a couple of sort of tracks as well, and then when he was going with Pusha T, did he do, was it Duppy freestyle?
Yeah. But he got his arse handed to him, didn't he? Because
he certainly did.
Pusha T then told the world that he had a kid. So yeah, I think he learned his lesson there. That was brutal. Yeah, that was savage.
That was something else. Like you look back to the Eminem beefs back in the day, and you know some of them were quite hard on the particular artist. But yeah, that Pusha T one, he was not holding back.
Mental.
That was entertainment. What did you catch the Spotify billboard sort of all over New York saying hip hop is a competitive sport? Is that anything that Drake's done or Kendrick's put out, or do you think it's just Spotify just basically try to get a wee bit of hype going for it?
I know that this track for like that with Future and Kendrick Lamar has already become the most streamed song of 2024 from a new album. So I would like to think it's just Spotify playing on that, and obviously they're going to earn an income from every stream that comes out of it via Spotify. So why not market money towards it? But a lot of people were saying that's going to be to do with the fact that Eminem's releasing an album, but I personally think that's just completely detached. That's got nothing to do with it.
Bit of a stretch. If there was like a backwards E in the writing, I would sort of go fair enough. But yeah, it looks like that track's heading to number one as well. Which will be,
good.
Obviously, it's worked. It's certainly worked, and it's got people talking. Right, guys, is there anything else you would like to cover before we wrap it up here?
Well, I'm not going to spend too long on it. I'm not going to go into too much details, but following the conversation of beefs, would we all like to safely say that 50 Cent is undoubtedly the king of New York now?
Yes.
Oh, aye. He's the GOAT.
The other one's going to jail. So. Yeah,
I'll leave that one there. But well, yeah, it's interesting.
I think it goes back to say, just going back from that, because I mean, Eminem poked jabs at Diddy on Kill Shot, kind of obviously insinuating he had something to do with Tupac's murder. But also just going back to beefs as well, that bar from Zeus sort of sits quite relevant now, doesn't it? And Drake, they're going to turn on you one day too. That whole little lyric where, because I think like Future, Metro, and a couple other artists associated with them, they've all unfollowed Drake on Instagram. Whether that's just marketing, I don't know, because everyone's picked up on it and started talking about it. But I just thought it was quite funny that a couple of years later, after that track's released, it's already started to sing true.
Yeah, it is. That was 4 years ago, and it is starting to sort of show slight signs of it as well. Right, guys, so thanks very much for joining me, and thanks for everyone that has listened so far. Just remember to hit that follow and subscribe button, and as I say, we are going to be a lot more active between now and the release of the album, and probably even furthermore down the line as well. So thanks to Ross and Blake for joining me, thanks to you for listening, and we'll be back again very, very soon.